Hello everyone, welcome to Night Tales. I am Sai Fool. I hope you all are doing well. Usually, when a person dies, their existence in this world comes to an end. Their stories are buried with them. But what happens when a person returns from the grave to solve the mystery of their own murder? Today's story is not a fictional horror movie. It is a real case from American history that left the law, the police, and the world in total shock. This is the story of Teresita Basa, the woman who solved her own murder. The date was February 21st, 1977. The location? Chicago, USA. At around 8:40 p.m., the fire department received an emergency call. Apartment 15B at 2719 North Pine Grove Avenue was on fire. Firefighters rushed to the 15th floor. The smoke was so thick they couldn't see anything. They broke the windows to clear the air and pushed into the bedroom. In the middle of the room, they saw a mattress on the floor, engulfed in flames. When they extinguished the fire and lifted the mattress, they froze in terror. Underneath lay the naked body of a woman. A large kitchen knife was plunged so deep into her chest that it had gone through her body. The woman was identified as Teresita Basa. Teresita was a 47-year-old Filipino immigrant. She was a woman of high status. Her father was a famous lawyer in the Philippines, and she came from a wealthy family. She was a professional respiratory therapist at Edgewater Hospital and a talented piano teacher. She was quiet, deeply religious, and had no enemies. So, who would want to kill her in such a brutal way? The police, led by Detective Joseph Stakula, began their investigation. The crime scene was a mess because of the fire and the water used to put it out. There were no fingerprints, no signs of forced entry, which meant Teresita likely knew her killer and let them in. The only things missing were some of her jewelry and her TV. Detectives searched her diary and found a note. Get tickets for AS. They interviewed every person with the initials AS, but everyone had an alibi. Months passed. The case went cold. The files were moved to the unsolved cabinet. It seemed like the killer had committed the perfect crime. 6 months later, the investigation took a turn that sounded like a ghost story. A woman named Remy Chua, who worked at the same hospital as Teresita, started having strange visions. She would see Teresita's face in the hallways. Then, the possessions began. One evening, while Remy was at home with her husband Joe, she fell into a deep trance. Her eyes rolled back, and her voice changed. It wasn't Remy's high-pitched voice anymore. It was a low, raspy voice. Joe asked, "Who is this?" The voice replied, "I am Teresita Basa." Joe was terrified, but he listened. The voice told him, "I was murdered by a man named Alan Showery. He came to my house to fix my television. He killed me, took my jewelry, and set my bed on fire to hide his tracks." Joe and Remy were scared that people would think they were crazy, but the spirit came back 3 times. During the 3rd possession, Teresita gave specific details. She said, "Alan took my pearl ring and my gold pendant. He gave them to his girlfriend. Go to his apartment and you will find them." Joe finally went to the police. Detective Stahula was stunned. In his years of service, he had never heard a report from a ghost. But he was desperate. He looked up the hospital records and found an employee named Alan Showery. He was a 32-year-old orderly. The police went to Alan's apartment. They didn't tell him about the ghost. They just started asking questions. They noticed Alan's girlfriend was wearing a very specific gold pendant. They asked where she got it. She said Alan had given it to her as a late Christmas gift. When the police showed the jewelry to Teresita's family, they started crying. They confirmed it was Teresita's. They even found a receipt for the pearl ring in Teresita's old files. Alan Showery was arrested. The trial was a sensation. It was the first time in history that a voice from the grave was mentioned in a courtroom. Alan's lawyer tried to argue that Remy Chua was mentally ill or faking it. But the details were too accurate. On February 21, 1979, exactly 2 years after the murder, Alan Showery did something unexpected. He walked into the court and confessed. He admitted he went there to help with the TV, but he needed money, so he killed her and robbed her. He was sentenced to 14 years in prison. Alan was released on parole in 1983, but the mystery remains. Did Teresita's soul really return? Remy Chua had no way of knowing about the jewelry or the TV repair. Even the hard-boiled Chicago detectives admitted that Teresita Basa solved her own murder. This case remains a chilling reminder that sometimes justice finds a way, even from beyond the grave. I am Saiful, and you are watching Night Tales. If you want to hear more long-form mysteries like this, let me know. Take care and stay safe.